Topic E, handling structured data. Now we're going to start looking at structured data with CSV files. And CSV stands for comma separated values. And CSV files are actually, really easy to work with, and they plug in really well with commonly used software. So you can basically save an Excel spreadsheet as a CSV file. You can save a text file as a CSV merely by changing the extension. As you can see, the data in them is chiefly separated by the commas, although rows also do play a part. Now, we use them because really they're easy to read, easy to parse. They're very small and light, so they take very small minimal space in memory, and they're easy to generate and have a standard format, which basically a lot of software is adapted to read, and a lot of plugins and various programs and APIs are also adapted to. So to work with CSV files, you're going to need to get CSV data to practice with. Now for this, I recommend a website called mokaroo.com. The CSV data that we're going to use in the examples that we cover comes from mokaroo.com. So before we get into actual programs that read CSV data, I just want to show you one more thing. So if you remember, I had mentioned that the best practice with files is to close them at the end. Well, when working with CSV and JSON data, this is going a little bit beyond best practice. This really should be done because a lot of these files are going to operate on servers where the goal is to minimize the usage of resources. So this is basically the standard way of operating with files. Even text files, JSON, CSV, all of them. You're going to use this expression with open file name, and then you use generally like an abbreviation like F or file. And this basically allows you to, in this indented block, work with your file, and when you're done with it, all the resources are released, the file is closed, and basically it takes away the having to remember. It's a better, easier habit to pick up. So obviously you can basically process each line individually, you can iterate through files, etc., as long as you do it in that indented block. So let's see what an example of reading from a CSV file looks like. So here is our mock data coming from Mokaroo website, and we save that as F. And then we save the read data into a variable called mock data reader, and we basically, after importing the CSV module, we read the CSV file. So we start reading from the first line as opposed to line 0. Line 0 is essentially like a header that you can ignore. So in here, we go through lines above 1 and print individual rows. Now, I think it's best that you see this in code. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run this in code and then reorganize some Mokaroo CSV data into a format that is more useful to us. So this is the CSV reading program that I just demonstrated in the slides. And if we run it, you're basically going to get all of this mock data, 1,000 values from mokaroo.com of basically name, like the number of entry, name, surname, email, sex, and IP address. So what I want to do is basically reorganize that data in some way that's useful to a programmer. So basically reference it. And this type of data is ideally placed in a dictionary. If you think of these fields, it would be easier to basically access them with name, surname, and email. So I'm just going to do a list of basically mini dictionaries, each of which have 3 key value pairs. One is going to be name, surname, and email. So let's run with this. The first thing that I want to do is unpack this row a little bit. If we, instead of printing row, if we just did rule 0, 1, 2, 3, you're going to see, okay, 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to do this once because I'm going to break after this. So this should be interesting. See, 1, we can ignore row 0 because that's just a number. We're not really interested in that. But that's name, surname, email. So we can set these as name equals to row 1, surname equals to row 2, email equals to row 3. So now that we have them, we can basically put them into a dictionary. Now, where am I going to create this dictionary? I can create it right before the loop. I'm going to call it uses. Actually, I'm going to make users a list, and I'm going to fill it up with little mini dictionaries. So right here, we can users dot append, and we can use the curly braces here. So we can basically say something like name field, and that's going to be row 1, and then comma, so that's 1 field. So we can just kind of copy that, use that as a little bit of a template. So that's going to be surname, and that's going to be row 2, that's going to be email, and that's going to be row 3. Now, there's got to be a comma between these 2 fields. This should work. So if we print users, remember this is breaking after 1, but you're going to see this kind of, yep, name, surname, email. So if we remove the break, it might look messy, but if we just make this iterate through users for user in users. So we got users, watch that. Now that is data that's really easy to work with. So there you have it. In this video, we took this simple CSV reading program and we read data from it and reformatted it in a very useful form, having a list of dictionaries. Each single dictionary is basically data related to one person with their name, surname, and email address. Next, we have the JSON file. That stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's particularly used on the internet for transferring data between APIs, and this is what it looks like. So JSON data is, as you can see, you do have these curly braces here, but you can imagine it as a list of dictionaries. So it's grouped in key value pairs. As I said, it is the standard. However, there are others like XML and protocol buffers. Now, a little bit more detail about JSON data. As I said, it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's a data format that was built for exchanging data in a human readable way. Like, this is, when you think about how you organize a data, dictionary is the most intuitive structure because you have these keys as opposed to indexes. For example, the CSV files just have like values, and there's no indication of what the value is. Is that a name, or is that a surname, or is that a place? Whereas a dictionary has a key to basically tell you what each value is. So it's a lot more human friendly, shall we say. Because of this, it's basically become the standard as the data exchange format between APIs. So when you're interacting with a website, when websites are interacting with websites and getting data from each other, this is how the data travels in JSON format. Python also, just like we have a CSV module, there's a JSON module with a number of functions that are going to assist us in basically reading and writing JSON data. So let's look at 2 examples, one for reading, one for writing JSON data. So in this video, we are going to read a JSON file. The JSON file that we're going to read is the exact one that we just saw in the slides. So in order to do so, we're first going to import the JSON module. Then we're going to use this safe with open structure, which is going to make sure that it closes our files for us. So with open, you basically put the file name here, please, example.json. Then we're going to basically be able to just give it a little nickname as F. So now our data is going to be json.loads f.read. So we should be able to print this data and basically have access to it. There it is. So you can actually check the data type, and that should be a dictionary. Yep. So it is that simple to read and access JSON files. So in this video, we are going to write to a JSON file. In fact, we're also going to create a JSON file. So let's start by creating one and naming it. So the last one was called example.json. So I don't know, we can call it, go file new, just select file and call it example write.json. Apologize, I'm not a genius at naming things, but I think that's obvious enough. All right, so this is the data that we want to write. This is basically a dictionary with typically the type of data that's present in JSON files. And in order to write it, we're going to import JSON, and we are going to use a dumps method that's inside JSON to basically get this data into JSON file. Now, to do that, you first need to open a file as writable. So we need to open it as R+ or W. So we're going to use the with open function. So with open, that's going to be example write.json. And here, I'm just going to select A+, because it's sort of the universal one. If you're not sure, if you may want to write something to that file, you can just use that. And all you need to do is json.dump, and you are, oh, we didn't actually have an abbreviation for what we're going to call this file. We're going to call it F. And we want to dump user info into F. So user info is going to be the first parameter and F the second. Info, comma, F. And you run this, write JSON, you open, and there it is. If you run it again, you'll notice it just kind of writes from the beginning and overwrites the same part of the file. So to recap, in this video, we imported the JSON module. We used some pre-made dictionary type data. We opened a JSON file that we created, and we put that data into the JSON file via the dump function.